Welcome to In Focus. I'm your host, Bad Derek. So in the news today, we have talk of a new Sigma camera, Sigma FPL. This camera is expected to be announced on February 25th, and it's anticipated it will sport a new 60 megapixel customized sensor, in addition to, for the first time ever in a Sigma camera, IBIS. This camera, for me anyway, is sparking particular interest. As a former FP owner, I'm very curious as to if this camera will finally sport the foveation sensor that has been rumored to be in development for some 5 years now. So you might be wondering, what's so special about a foveation sensor? Well, a foveation sensor differs from a Bayer sensor in that it uses an array of photosites, each consisting of 3 photodiodes with different spectral sensitivities. These different spectral sensitivities allow each photodiode to respond differently to the different wavelengths of light. Using an additive process, the resulting imagery is combined, and this results in a richness of color palette which is, in my opinion, not yet matched by anything I've seen. In addition to that, you get a boost of resolution with the resulting image. In other news, Sony is expected to announce on the 23rd of this month a new camera, the so-called FX3. And what exactly is the FX3? Well, according to the rumor mill, and I do believe the leaks, that this camera is actually a rebodied A7S III. This camera signals that Sony will not give us the things that we have been wanting in the A7S III. Things such as S-Cinetone, true 24p, and an ability to turn off the noise reduction. But all of these things I'm very much expecting will be in the FX3. I think this camera is pivotal. It's pivotal in a lot of ways, but specifically it's pivotal in the fact that it represents a bifurcation of Sony's product line. No more will you rush out and buy the latest and greatest alpha camera, because you'll always have it in the back of your mind that there may be another release a few months later on of the exact same camera on the FX line, on the cinema line, and perhaps that will better suit your needs. I think it's a bit of a misstep for Sony. One thing that really has been eating at me, I mean not terribly, but in the back of my mind, is the Sony FX3, like the FX6, has a heatsink, a vent, and a fan. It's the vent and the fan part of that that really has me thinking. It has me thinking, why do these cameras need a fan? And the reason why I ask that question is because all 3 of these cameras use essentially the same processors and the same sensor from the A7S III, a camera that runs absolutely fine, has 0 issues overheating in all of my use, and doesn't have any vents or any fans. So why would these 2 cinema line cameras need to have vents and fans? And the only thing that comes to mind is a rumor that came out in November. And the rumor was simply this, is that at some point Sony was going to release a firmware update for the FX6. And this firmware update would add a new mode called Wide Dynamic Range Mode. And Wide Dynamic Range Mode would utilize the dual ISO capabilities of the Sony FX6 and would allow it to use them in such a way as to produce up to 16 plus stops of dynamic range. And that's pretty astounding. Now, I could understand why utilizing both ISOs simultaneously might require having a heatsink that's very large, vents, and a fan. And seeing that those same specifications, well, the heatsink, the vents, and the fan, are also finding their way onto the FX3, it does have me wondering, will that camera also come with a wide dynamic range option? It's food for thought. I'll leave you with it. If you enjoyed this content, feel free to go ahead, like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell, and I'll catch you next time.